In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to weave along and make this checkerboard brooch. First, you're going to start with your white or light color. For this, I'm showing you white in a 2-color kit, but it could be any of colors or any 2 colors. And you're going to use your warp threads and pull them around into the front of the dents, back and forth 6 times. So you're going to have half the warp be white and half the warp be black. And so here you'll see I'm going back and forth. I'm not going all the way around. I'm just keeping the warp on the front side of the loom. Here I'm going to hold the white warp while I trim it a little bit, and then I'm going to start with the black warp. It's a little challenging to tie a knot with the black warp at this time to connect the two, so I'm just going to kind of hold them until I get them in tension, and once they're both on there, I will go back and tie a knot. So here I am doing the same thing but with the black warp, letting it rest at the top up there. You can see it came undone a bit, but just securing it with my left hand, and keep going back and forth on the front of the loom, around the back of the dent or the tooth, and then to the front. So once I get that all through, I'm going to secure it in tension through the little slit on the side. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over and tie that knot that I mentioned before. So I'm just going to tie a double knot. There we go. And here I've decided I'm going to undo that white where I was securing it and actually just weave it in a bit. This will secure the top side of my brooch, and just make sure that I have a lot of security. So I'm weaving it in by hand over and under, and then wrapping it around, pulling it to the front, and then sort of trimming it. And that's just going to secure it, keep it out of the way. I'm using my comb to push it all the way up and tucking it sort of in a little bit with my needle. So again, just sort of securing it, making sure it's all taken care of before I start the main weaving of the project. At this point, I'm gonna twist my thread really tight as I can, and kind of make a head of like a half folded over itself. And I like to call it like a little worm head or something, or just looped head. And then I can push that easily through my needle because I'm not using the frayed ends of the thread. So that black warp is still kind of held in tension through that slit, but I'm now going to go over and under and lock the top side of my weaving with a plain weave, going all the way across with the black. I'm going to do this twice, and then I'm going to come back also in a plain weave. I sometimes turn my loom upside down, as you can see here, because I'm more comfortable weaving from right to left than left to right, and that's perfectly fine. That's why it's a handheld loom, because you can turn it any which way you want to. So here, again, don't pull it too tight in on the edges if you can avoid it, because we need it to be as wide in the weaving space as it is across the loom. So at this point, I am going to now just start going back and forth just on the black side. So this is actually called a split warp tapestry technique, where I'm just going to go back and forth, black and black. So I go halfway across, and now I'm going to weave back the other half. And in a minute, I'm going to start doing the same thing with the white. And I will weave that, these 2 initial parts of our plain weave in the square of the checkerboard, back and forth, back and forth. To start the white, I'm going to do the same thing, twisting the white, tight, 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 getting a little loop, and pushing that loop through the needle. One of the easiest ways I've found to get started, but if that's difficult for you, I have something called a yarn taco video. You should check it out. It shows you how to use a little piece of paper to hold your yarn and get it through the eye of the needle. At this point, I'm just going to tuck by hand my end back into the warp because I like to make sure everything's secure. I just hand wove it in a few picks and I'm tucking it to the back. So that's the trick I use just to make sure everything is secure. I trim that up and I keep going. So here you can see I've completed the first two squares. They are split through the middle. And now I'm interchanging the black. It's going to jump over to the white side and the white is going to go over to the black side. And I'm going to keep weaving. So I just interchange those two weft threads and I am going to keep going and fill in this whole next block, doing the same thing I did in the first part of the video where I'm just going back and forth, doing a slit tapestry technique with two colors of thread. I've completed 2 pretty equal squares, and now I want to lock everything in with some plain weave. So I'm going to take my black and start going over to the what was the white zone, and now back onto the black warp, and complete that full pass of weft. The weft being, if I haven't said it already, the threads that intersect the warp. And now I'm going to take the white and come over the black, because I want to go under that first black warp at the end. So now I'm taking the white all the way back, and this will make a nice stripe at the bottom of your weaving, but also just secure in everything we've done so far. So I'm going to do a couple more lines. Let's see. Here, go back with the black. Comb it up. Just like before, I'm going to tuck, go under with the white and then tuck it in, weave it about halfway, clip it, and trim it there, because I think that's enough to secure the weaving. And at this point I'm going to do something really fun. I decided I wanted more fringe than will be there just with the warp threads, so I'm going to cut 3 lengths of the white remainder yarn and do something called a RYA technique, R-Y-A, where you take that length of yarn and you go over 2 warp threads. I'm going to go over the 2 most outer warp threads and then up through the middle with that yarn. And it's going to be a sort of additional fringe technique. You kind of try to pull those as even as you can, and even though it's going to sit down and it's a little bit of a knot, I'm going to push it all the way up and get it out of the way until I complete the whole row, and then we're going to lock it in with a edge protector, and we'll be able to cut the weaving off the loom. So as you've noticed, we're just weaving about half of the space on the loom, because we're going to leave the fringy bits as a decorative part of our brooch. You can comb it up. There you go. And repeat. Now we'll have 3 in white and 3 in black. Our final step is going to be securing that edge of your weaving. So I'm taking the black, I'm going around 1 warp and then up and through. It's a knotting technique, an edge protector. So I'm going around 1 warp, looping it up and pulling it tight. And that's just going to lock everything in and make sure that your the weaving isn't going to fall out. So around 1, up. It's like a little knot that you're making until I get all the way to the end. And then I'm gonna show you on that final warp, I'm gonna go around that outer warp thread twice when I make my knot to secure it with sort of a double knot. Over one, up and through the middle, and securing. Over one, up and through the middle, and securing. Almost done and kind of running out of thread, but it'll be enough. Onto my final, going over, under, up. I'm gonna go over and under and up twice in that same gesture to make a double knot. Yep, and pulling that thread tight. Perfect. Now everything's protected and I can pull the fringe down and our project is nearly done. So I like to sort of tidy everything up, pull the threads into place, comb them, and here I get to take my weaving off the loom. So I go to the bottom and then I unnotch those threads that are over those teeth. And then we're going to do the same thing on the top. So the top is going to feel a little loose maybe, but you'll see I just kind of fuss with it a little bit until the weaving spreads out a little bit more into the notch space. Try to pull things a little tight, spread them out. So it's not going to look maybe perfect, but if you sort of reposition the threads a little bit, it'll look just fine. Sometimes if I have a lot of extra at the end, I'll put it back on the needle and try to weave it through those edge loops, but it's a kind of cool feature of the design because of the loom, because you can, because the edges are looped, it's self-finished. It's just, right now I'm just sort of laying stretching the yarns until they're laying in place, because I'm going to put the needle through it from the pin in just one sec. So just a little bit of fuss here to make everything look nice. I take that needle from the pin and I just kind of go over, under, so it looks even. And my brooch is almost done. And then you turn it to the other side, and then that pin is what we can put into your sweater or your loose woven jacket, whatever you have. It doesn't fit, this pin is a little big to fit into something like a shirt, a fine woven shirt, but it works well in a knit or into a thicker woven jacket. Just combing it out. You can trim that fringe whatever length you want. It's a little hard to get it even, so hopefully you have a sharp scissors. But it's kind of fun. It feels like you're giving your weaving a haircut. And voila, your brooch is ready to wear. Thanks for following the tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to weave your checkerboard brooch. Check out the rest of our Hello Loom videos for more techniques. Thanks.